What's up, ladies and gents? You know what time of day it is. It's Zebec time, and in today's video we're going to be talking all about Zebec. We're going to be discussing what we're seeing here on the charts, and I'll be giving you guys my price prediction for Zebec over the coming days and weeks, as well as my targets for 2025. So be sure to stay tuned for all of that. Of course, if you are a new viewer, then welcome to this channel. If you do like this sort of content, hit the like button and subscribe for more. If you are a returning viewer, as always, welcome back to the channel. It's great to have you all here. So of course, we're going to be diving straight into this video. We're going to start off with the shorter term here for Zebec, and we are on the 1 hour chart right now. And so essentially what we've seen since our last video 24 hours ago are these two pumps that we've had here on Zebec in the shorter term. Now, of course, this had occurred after the prices had come down to the previous low here on Zebec. So essentially prices have come down to the low here that we had on the 23rd of June, and the bulls defended this level once again. So roughly what we kind of have here on the shorter term at first glance is some sort of double bottom pattern. Now, of course, this is not a confirmed pattern until we break out past a certain neckline. Now, a key level that I'm watching for here on the shorter term for Zebec actually comes from the fixed range volume profile. Now, this just shows us which price level basically has the most trading volume, and essentially this red line here is the point of control. So essentially, during this downtrend, the bulls are going to be in control when we get above this red line, and this red line here actually looks like a pretty decent resistance for this double bottom pattern. So basically, to summarize, if we see the prices go up in the shorter term up to this sort of level here, where this red line is, and we start to see the prices cross up from this level, then in my opinion, this would confirm this potential double bottom pattern that we are seeing with the two lows here that I have annotated. And this could give us a short-term target here on Zebec of the distance between the bottom down there to this point of control region here. And of course, we could be looking at a short-term target for Zebec of 0.052. So a 28% breakout to the upside if the prices get up to this point of control and break past through it. Now, of course, from where the prices are sat at now, that is a 51% upside. So this is something that is now on my radar because we have these two bottoms that have come to roughly the same area. Now, of course, on top of this potential double bottom pattern that we're looking at in the shorter term, of course, we are still monitoring the developments with this falling wedge pattern that we have here on the chart. So another shorter term pattern that we have is this falling wedge formed by this downtrend that we've had since the start of June. So of course, the prices had just been consolidating in a downtrend, guided by these two lines here. So we've had this upper resistance line and we've had this lower support line, and they're converging into each other, which means that if we extend them far out enough, then they're going to eventually touch each other. So whenever we see a pattern like this, whenever we see two trend lines facing down, converging into each other, that is a falling wedge, and it's important because it is a bullish chart pattern. So if the prices do decide to break out to the upside, let's say we see prices head up for that double bottom pattern we could potentially be seeing, and we see a breakout to the upside from this resistance here on Zebec, we could also be seeing this falling wedge pattern in play. Now, this, of course, would give us a price target of the first test of support, which is this point here, to the first test of resistance, which is this point up here. We drag that measuring tool to wherever we see the breakout. Let's just say that occurs within the next few days. And of course, we could be looking at a target here on Zebec of 0.0064. So a 74% upside once we see a breakout from this resistance, which currently sits only at 0.0037. So it's not even that much further above where we are right now before we could potentially see another 74% upside. Now, if we do get to this level here on Zebec in the shorter term, if we get enough momentum and we hit this price target, I do not think there's any reason why Zebec could not keep on continuing going. And so another shorter term price target that I have is this 1 cent region, so 0.01. So two more potential shorter term targets that we have here on Zebec. Of course, if we look at our trusty indicator, the MACD. Now the MACD is my favorite indicator here for crypto, and it essentially measures where the momentum is going. Is it bullish or is it bearish? Now, essentially, the two things that we look for here on the MACD in general is crossovers. So when the blue and the orange line cross over with each other, generally we tend to get buy or sell signals, although the longer time frames tend to provide better buy and sell signals. And of course, we also look for divergences. So right now, here on Zebec, if you see my previous videos, you would know that Zebec has been in a massive bullish divergence since the start of June. If we connect the lows of the MACD lines down here, you can see that the trend line for the MACD lines are clearly heading upwards, and yet the price throughout the same period has been heading downwards. So the price heading downwards, the MACD heading upwards, creates a bullish divergence, which means that we could be seeing a trend reversal in the near future. Now bear in mind that the trend on Zebec has been bearish since June, so if we see a trend reversal, we should start to see a new bullish trend emerge sooner rather than later as a result of this bullish divergence that we've seen on the MACD. Now, if we look on the 4-hour time frames, we've got a very similar story. Just need to adjust that bottom trend line a bit. And again, you guys see we have a strong bullish divergence on the 4-hour MACD as well. Now, the final boss here for Zebec that's stopping us from just exploding right now is this 1-day MACD. Now, if I just get rid of my annotation so you guys can see that a little bit clearer, you can see that on the 1-day MACD, we've had this strong, crossover here on Zebec. So that occurred at the start of June. That was a sell signal because the two lines crossed over and the bars went from green to red. Of course, the prices had dropped from that point, and we can still see that the momentum is generally bearish on the slightly longer time frames. But it does not look like that this bearish momentum will last too much longer. If we draw a trend line for the bearish momentum that we have here on the MACD, you can see that the trend is generally that the bearish momentum is diminishing. The red bars are getting lesser and lesser and lesser. And that tells us that sooner rather than later, we could potentially see a crossover, which means that these red bars turn to green like they did there at the start of May. And of course, when that happens, we get a crossover of the two lines. That is a strong buy signal. And the last time that had occurred, that was here on the 20th of May. Shortly thereafter, we saw the prices do this 3x here on Zebec. So guys, whenever we see a crossover of the 1-day MACD, that is a very strong buy signal in my opinion. And the point is that I think that these lines are going to cross over sooner rather than later. It's probably not going to be tomorrow, but keep your eye on this MACD, the 1-day MACD here on Zebec. If we do get that crossover, guys, we could see an explosion like we did back in May for Zebec. So plenty of reasons, in my opinion, to be bullish here on Zebec. Of course, looking briefly at Bitcoin as well. Generally, when Bitcoin tends to make a move, we see smaller cap cryptos like Zebec follow suit. And here on Bitcoin, the picture, in my opinion, is very bullish. Now, the reason for that is because similar to Zebec, Bitcoin has been in some sort of shorter term downtrend. You can see that Bitcoin has been following this trend now that's been guided by these two trend lines here, similar to how Zebec is, but instead of converging trend lines, we see two parallel trend lines for this consolidation. And given the context of this pump that we had on Bitcoin, going into this consolidation, this is a bull flag, and as the name suggests, this is a bullish chart pattern. So confirmation comes when we break past this upper trend line here, which currently sits at roughly 109K here on Bitcoin. If we break past that, all-time highs are coming here for Bitcoin, and we should be seeing roughly 130,000 as a result of this bull flag. So if Bitcoin successfully completes this bull flag and goes to 130K, that's going to drag crypto along with it. That's going to allow Zebec to help break through its falling wedge pattern, and we should see Zebec hit new all-time highs soon after Bitcoin hits its own new all-time highs. So we've got a lot to look forward to here on the shorter term for Zebec. That is why I am bullish. I do think it's a mistake to be selling at this point for all the reasons I have just stated. Of course, just a quick reminder, guys, if you want to get $10 completely free to buy some Zebec, then look no further than the MEX exchange. As you can see from the screen, they're giving every new user who signs up using the link in the description down below $10 to get started. So the nice thing is as well, this exchange does not require KYC to get started to buy and sell crypto. All you need to do to get that $10 is to deposit some fiat currency or crypto into your new account, and then they'll give you that $10. And on top of that as well, if you deposit at least $100 into your new account, then they'll give you an extra $10. So that's $20 total in bonuses just for signing up and depositing a certain amount. So like I say, you can use that money to simply buy some Zebec, or you can long Zebec with up to 20 times leverage using MEX futures. So of course, guys, thank you so much for your support on this channel. Let's get back into this video. So this was the shorter term picture that we have here on Zebec. Those shorter term targets, as a summary, was potentially 0.0052 as a result of a potential double bottom pattern, then 0.0064 for that falling wedge, up to 0.01 if we get really bullish in the shorter term. Of course, for the longer term, the price targets that I am looking at for 2025 fall along these fib levels. Now, these fib levels here have been well respected by Zebec. That is why we use them. You can see that throughout this accumulation period, so throughout 2024, prices came up to this 0.5 fib multiple times to test it as a resistance. We can see that in more recent history, the prices here on Zebec came up to this 1.414 fib, made a new all-time up here, and as the prices has been consolidating in this falling wedge, we can see that this 1 fib is actually holding up pretty well. So these fib levels, as you can see, have been respected as places of support and resistance, and so we can speculate that if prices do make new all-time highs here on Zebec, which I do think they will, then the next immediate targets that we have is this 1.618 fib. We discussed that already because it sits just short of 0.01, which was one of our shorter term targets. Past 0.01, we've got this 2 fib here that sits at 0.017. Then the main target for me that we have for 2025 is this extended 2.618 fib, and that sits at 0.046. Now, one other level that I think is going to be significant if we can get up there is this 10 cents region, and it's going to be a big psychological level, a bit like 100,000 Bitcoin was, because at the end of the day, round numbers tend to have a lot of buy and sell orders at them. And of course, if Zebec makes it up to these levels, that's going to put a lot of people in profits. And so essentially, I do think there's going to be quite a few sell orders round about the 0.1 region here on Zebec. So my two main targets, 0.046, and if we can pump past that, 0.1 is a pretty solid second target to have, in my opinion. Now, of course, to have the best possible chance of reaching these price targets here on Zebec, what we need to see above all are these two indicators giving us some favorable numbers. Now, the one on the right sits at 20 at the moment. We need to see that at above 75. And the one on the left, the Fiat and Greed Index, sits at 50. We need to see that at above 80. And of course, when we have those two figures in the right place, that creates the perfect storm for coins like Zebec, so small cap cryptos, to do these 2x's, 5x's, 10x's, even 100x's in the shortest space of time. That's exactly what we saw back in the 2021 bull run for coins that were in the hypest categories. Of course, Zebec being in the payments category in 2025, I think is going to be a strong narrative overall for this bull run. So I do think Zebec has the possibility for a huge run up when we get a true altcoin season, so this value being above 75 and this Fiat and Greed Index being above 80, which signals that there is euphoria and extreme greed in the markets. So if you are a longer term holder here for Zebec and you just really want to stay away from the charts, then two things that you could be doing is just going onto the CoinMarketCap homepage and checking out these two indicators from time to time. If the values of these are very, very high, then you know that might not be a bad time to sell some of your longer term holdings. So those are kind of my thoughts here for Zebec for the shorter term and the longer term. Needless to say, I am bullish in both cases. Of course, thank you guys for watching this video. Do let me know down in the comments if you are still holding your Zebec. If you are holding your Zebec, let me know if you've bought any Zebec over the past week. Of course, thank you guys so much once again. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.